A Canadian court on Monday ruled that it was false, misleading and deceptive to label wines made in Jewish settlements in the occupied West Bank as a product of Israel.
Here's a summary of the article.
A Canadian court on Monday ruled that it was false, misleading and deceptive to label wines made in Jewish settlements in the occupied West Bank as a product of Israel. Kattenberg, who criticized Israel's policies towards the Palestinians, argued that such labeling facilitates Israel's de facto annexation of large portions of the West Bank, according to the court ruling. The CFIA had defended its usage for the wines made in the West Bank settlements by citing the free trade agreement between Canada and Israel. Judge Anne McTavish said because there is no dispute that the settlements in which the wines are produced are not part of the territory of the State of Israel, she was finding for Kattenberg. Identifying the wines as products of Israel is false, misleading and deceptive and interferes with the ability of Canadian consumers to make informed and rational decisions to buy conscientiously, she said. McTavish said the CFIA will have to determine how to label the wines. In 2015, the European Union approved guidelines for member states to include the phrase Israeli settlement on labels of products from Jewish enclaves in the West Bank, East Jerusalem and the Golan Heights, all of which were occupied by Israel in the 1967 Six-Day War.
This post received a score of 5,143, with an upvote ratio of 92%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Pretty good for 76%. To allow the wine to be sold as a product of Israel, would mean that Canada recognizes the occupied territories being part of Israel. Israel is saying, yes, we are mislabeling, but we want you to accept it or we will accuse you of bigotry.
How about Canada boycott it instead?
I think the whole thought behind the labeling scuffle was to allow citizens to make their own choice based on honest labeling. Those who feel boycotting is appropriate could only do so with accurate labels, and those who have no desire to boycott could do so. It was more about transparency and not letting someone benefit monetarily from lying about the complicated ethics of the origins of their product.
The ethics aren't complicated. Israel is committing fraud and Canada won't accept it. These rules also apply in the EU. You can't mislabel the origin of products.
This is a very common-sense ruling. The physical land in which these are made are not in Israel. Very cut and dry. The counter-argument that was proposed was that the Palestinian West Bank is not a recognized country and therefore the label should, by default, become from Israel. I don't follow the logic at all, but that's what they tried to run with here.
It's a passive-aggressive, no, you're fucking wrong Israel, we have no reason to accept your claims to the West Bank as legitimate, but because for some reason Westerners conflate criticism of Israel's humanitarian crimes with anti-Semitism, so the initial ruling can't come from the executive or parliamentary branches for the sole sake of optics. Canada has only been pulling punches because they depend on trade with and through the US for a lot of their GDP. Once U.S. public sentiment really shifts towards Israel, you're running off the end of your historically oppressed trope rope. Canada will be right there to back up the big middle finger.
I mean, Canada does seem pretty pro-Israel, especially with Trudeau denouncing the BDS movement and voting against Palestine's membership into the UN as an observer state.
Being critical of Palestine shouldn't make you automatically pro-Israeli or vice versa. Both places need a fuckton of work done.
Can items from Tibet be labeled made in China?
They already are, not that there is a lot of manufacturing in Tibet. Fun fact, China requires Taiwanese products sold in China be labeled as made in China or made in Chinese Taiwan or some bullshit like that. Although it might only be selectively enforced.
I wonder if this will have any negative effects on West Bank residents like the closing of the SodaStream factory.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.